days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. We'll be talking about late round draft gems. And the San Francisco 49ers need to strike in the late rounds because of some of the things that have happened with some of the compensatory picks. The 49ers are picking 3 times now in the 7th round. One towards the beginning of the 7th round in the 220s, late 220s, and then 2 later in the draft, 249, 251 area. And so they're going to have a lot of picks that they're going to have to make late in rounds. And we've seen them have some success with that. But the way you do it is by finding guys who just have something different about them, something special. And so the 49ers are going to have a lot of late round picks. You're talking 5th, and 7th. No 6th round picks. The trade for Jordan Mason, that moved that pick up into the 5th round, which is great. But then also now you have that void in the 6th round where you just don't have picks. So the 49ers are going to have to go out there and they're going to have to find some guys that fit some needs. And we know what the 49ers needs are early on in this draft. And now that we've been hearing Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and Jed York talk about what is on the docket for the draft, we know that they're going to put a focus on certain positions. And we know what those key positions are: edge rusher, defensive tackle. We know that those are going to be a premium. So they're probably going to look for some of the offensive line positions after the praise of Jake Brendel, the praise of Colt McKivitz. They're probably going to look to fill some of those offensive line spots late in the draft, which makes sense because they have been meeting with those types of players. I don't think it makes sense from the point if you're trying to improve your offensive line, then you need to go get somebody a little bit earlier on. We know that I'm a huge fan of some of the guys earlier on in this draft, but that doesn't mean the 49ers will strike on one of those guys. So looking for late round offensive linemen makes sense. I think making sense for the 49ers is looking at defensive linemen late in the draft, including edge rushers, looking at wide receivers who can make a difference, come in and compete, play on special teams, and then also guys who play secondary, especially corner. 49ers are going to have to fill out their cornerback roster, and they might hit early on in this draft in rounds 1, 2. I don't think round 1, probably rounds 2, 3, potentially 4, and get a cornerback that could come in and compete to be the third cornerback for this football team. But I think they need to get even more depth later. You look at the roster currently, and what are you going to get out of Darrell Luter Jr.? We just haven't seen it yet. So getting a guy that could come in later in this draft that could compete is something we're going to look for. So I've been going through and with my breakdowns, and of course I've been doing all that over on Patreon. You can go check that out. Close to 40 players now that have been broke down, and you guys can get kind of my in-depth look at what I'm looking at with certain players. A lot of those have been requested by the patrons. So the players that you want to see, guys like CJ West, guys that are up there that you want to know about, well, those are the guys I've been breaking down. And I'm going to be doing more breakdowns, including some of the guys that I'm talking about in this episode, because I've been evaluating players trying to get ready for the draft. And it's one of the most interesting times because you continually stumble onto players and you ask yourself a question: why is that guy there? Now, there's a guy like that I just stumbled upon because of David Morazzo. He's a patron and a active listener, and he pointed me on a player. And I'm not going to bring up that player right now because I haven't done enough work on it. But my initial look at him, I've only watched about one game of him, was like, whoa, okay, why didn't I know about this guy yet? And some of these guys are kind of hiding out. And so we're going to try to shine the light on some of these players. Some of the names that I'm going to talk about, you might have heard. Some of the other names, maybe you haven't. And that's the whole point, is talking about guys who maybe need a light shined on them that could be late round prospects for the 49ers and potentially late round gems. 49ers have hit on a lot of late round gems throughout the years when you think about it. From the 5th round studs that they've been able to get, some 6th round contributors, and even a big time 7th round player in Brock Purdy. And they might have to count on another 7th round pick as well when it comes to Tatum Bethune. He could end up starting at Sam linebacker this year, depending on how everything plays out. So late round players have had to make an impact for the 49ers before, and this is no different. They need to continue to hit on these guys. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. And if you are going to bet with Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for sports betting action. The Final Four is upon us, and Bet Online has more ways to stay in on the action with all the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are played. With the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to Major League Baseball, NHL, and UFC, and even the Kentucky Derby and NFL season futures are ready for you to bet. In between games, head on over to the online casino and get in on the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Bet Online, the game starts here. So I'm actually going to start with a wide receiver. And if you watch my video about the San Francisco 49ers using a Bill Walsh philosophy in the draft, you know that in the late rounds, I took a couple wide receivers, but one of those guys was somebody that I said, hey, I've come on to this guy lately. I'm a big fan of, and I'm ready to talk about him more extensively in this episode because I do think he's a late round gem potential for the San Francisco 49ers, and that's Andrew Armstrong from Arkansas. And he is just a really tough, fun player to watch. I think that this dude's got the potential to be, a solid contributor in the NFL, and he's got the talent to be able to do it. So he had 78 catches for 1,140 yards and 1 touchdown. So not a lot of production when it comes to getting into the end zone, but as far as making catches and making plays, especially with intermediate routes, he did a really good job. And I know a lot of people right now are on his teammate, Isaac Tesla, and he looks really good as well. Another big receiver that can stretch the field vertically. That's what he does. Now, Andrew Armstrong is not known for his speed, but he is quick enough. He runs a 5.140. Last year, he averaged 14.6 yards per reception, which is a great value. When you look at him, his testing scores are pretty good across the board. There's nothing that makes you not want to draft this guy. There's no reason that his numbers would push him down into the 7th round or potentially undrafted, like is what currently is being talked about. Yeah, nearly a 38-inch vertical leap shows the explosiveness. His broad jump was really good as well. He's got the size, weight, and speed that you really like. So I'm not sure exactly what made him fall down so far right now. He's just a very consistent player. When you look at his success, he's successful in the intermediate routes, short routes. He can run the deep ball. He's good at blocking. This is a guy that's physical. He fits the Kyle Shanahan scheme because he likes to block, and he gets physical at the point of attack. I mean, there's a lot to like about him. He's got good, strong hands. If the ball gets to him, he's going to catch it. I mean, he's got like vice grips for hands. I love seeing that. And, that's what you're looking for, is one of those guys that can just snag it, make contested catches, has a good catch radius, and he has all those things. He takes advantage of small corners all the time using his big size, physicality, and body control to be able to get up there and get the ball and track it when it's in the air. He's got good concentration to come down with the football. There's a lot to like about what Andrew does out in space. So I'm a huge fan of Andrew Armstrong and what he can do in the open field and how he can make plays and be able to get, some things done in the open field. And I think that that's what you're looking for. This is a football player. This is not the guy that's going to test out of the, off the charts. This isn't the guy that's going to catch everyone's attention. This is a guy that's going to do it right. He's going to do it well, and you're going to be a huge fan of him. And he's a guy that moves the chains. He's a chain mover. He had 34 first down catches in 2023. So just think about that. That is tremendous. And we know that that is one of the things that made Jawan Jennings such a fan favorite. And that's something that Armstrong adds as well. So Andrew Armstrong, a potential late round gem for the San Francisco 49ers right now, projected to go 6th round, 7th round. I think that there's a tremendous value if you're getting this guy in the 7th round. I think he could easily be a late 4, early 5, and you would feel like you're getting a tremendous amount of value. He might end up going higher than some people project. He can play X receiver. You can move him around. He's got a lot of versatility. So he's the first one that I like. Andrew Armstrong, out of Arkansas. Next up, I'm going to switch to a different position. And I talked about the fact that the 49ers need to add depth to the defensive line. Well, one position they need to hit on as well is defensive end. You've got Nick Bosa, you've got Yetur Gross-Matos. And depending on how you feel after that, it gets interesting, right? You got Sam Okawanu, and a lot of people are really big fans of Okawanu. I thought he did a tremendous job last year. You got Robert Beal Jr. He's been, battling and become a better run defender, but we haven't seen him be able to rush the passer. The 49ers, when it comes to those guys, and Okawanu's a decent pass rusher, I got to give him credit. I think he had like 3.5 sacks last year, which is a good number. But we need more juice on the outside. We need that guy that can come in and potentially get after the quarterback. And there is a guy that I really like that's probably going to be available in the 5th round. And I think that he could present a lot of opportunities for the 49ers. Another guy that's just a football player. He's not going to measure out anything fantastic. And that's Kyman Rucker from North Carolina. 6'1", 254 pounds. Now, he ran a 4.79 40. So, of course, we know that is not going to impress anyone with that number. And so that's probably going to make people a little bit nervous about, what his production could be because the speed doesn't jump off. But this is a guy that's been productive in the ACC. He's been a good edge player. And you're talking he had 6 sacks this last season in 2024. In 2023, he had 9. And he's a guy that produces on the field. But I think he's a guy that could come in right away and be a rotational piece for the 49ers. Now, 6'1", not ideal height for an edge defender, that's for sure. 254 pounds, that's a little bit better when you're talking about a 6'1" frame. The guy's put together. So when it comes to physicality, he can definitely handle it. He does not have the longest arms either, only 32 and 5/8 inch arms. But when it comes to strength, 27 reps at 225, showing some physical ability up top. Now, when it comes to how he ranks out against a lot of the other prospects, when it comes to pass rush, that's where he's really good. A 90 percentile pass rush grade for Kyman Rucker. That's what you're getting when you get him out there. So if you've got a base down, for instance, defensive end, this is why I like Rucker later in the draft. You've got a guy that can play base down, like a Robert Beal Jr., for instance. You could pair him with a Kyman Rucker, and then you pull Robert Beal off after first and second down, and Rucker goes out there with his pass rush ability. So if you can't get a complete player, get 2 guys that you can work together with, the same way you would on the defensive line. You have a 2-down defensive tackle, like Evan Anderson. You need to put him with a guy that can rush the passer, a guy that can get after, maybe a guy like Aeneas Peebles or Omar Norman Lott. Those guys, you get Evan Anderson playing the first 2 downs, and then the other guy comes in and closes down shop on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. That's what you're getting from Kyman Rucker. Now, he's not terrible at setting the edge in the run. There's capabilities there. And with the low center of gravity only being 6'1", but having a 255-pound frame, you would think that there's going to be potentially the ability for him to set a harder edge and be better against the run. I think he needs to get a little bit better at that. But he fits a lot of the Chris Kaczmarek bills when you're talking about things you have to be good at. His first step quickness is fantastic. He wins a lot of times with that first step, getting off the ball and threatening the edge and forcing that offensive tackle into his slide, and getting a little bit out there further than he wants to be and oversetting potentially where he can use an inside move. So I think that he puts a lot of tackles in some bad situations because of his initial quickness. Then he backs it up with the power and strength combination to be able to get in the backfield pretty consistently. He's got really good hand usage. So this is a guy that's got the necessary tools, the speed to power conversion, the necessary hand technique to be able to win at the point of attack. That's what makes him a good pass rusher. Some of the things that he needs to get better at is run defense. And so if you're drafting him to be a complete defensive end, he's going to need work in that category. If you're drafting him to get after quarterbacks and put pressure on offensive tackles on 3rd down, he can present that. And that's what you're looking for when you get later in this draft. What role can I see for this particular player? He either needs to have an elite trait or he needs to have a skill set that marries with somebody already on your team that you can get the most out of both players. And I think when you look at Kyman Rucker, that's what he does. I think he's got the potential to be a guy that can consistently get sacks in the NFL. I like his body build. I like his hand usage. I like his first step, his initial quickness. I think there's a lot of talent here for Kyman Rucker, and I think he's got the potential to be even better than we've seen already in college. I think he had 6 sacks this last season, 9 the year before. He could have easily got double digits. That's how good he is, and he was doing this without a lot of help. We talk about a lot of defensive linemen in this draft. Most of them had a lot of significant help along the defensive line. Kyman Rucker didn't have as much help as everybody else. So I think he's a versatile player. I think the 49ers would really love this player probably in the 5th round. And I think Kyman Rucker would be a nice addition to the San Francisco 49ers football team and could produce some potential sacks. You miss out on some guys early or you want to double up. Kyman Rucker later in the draft, I think could be really good for the 49ers. So I like him a lot. Now we're going to go to an intriguing prospect because the 49ers are looking for interior defensive linemen and they're looking for edge defenders. But then there's a guy they met with that kind of put him on my radar as far as when I'm breaking down film. Because some of these guys are deep, and you've got to have some reason why they kind of get on your radar. And the 49ers meeting with Elijah Roberts from SMU put him on my radar. He's 6'4", 285 pounds. And the question mark is, what does he play? Do you put 10 more pounds on him and you play him as a 3-tech, a penetrator, as a defensive tackle for your football team? Or do you play him as a big defensive end? That's going to be the question mark. I think it wouldn't be a question mark for a 3-4 defensive scheme. They would play him at 4-eye or 5-tech, and he would play their defensive end. I think in the wide 9 that the 49ers run, there's a bigger question. Could you use him the same way that you used Eric Armstead, where he goes out there and he plays base downs as a defensive end? Potentially. I don't know if he has enough pass rush skill to be able to win consistently on the outside. But I think this is a versatile player that when you're looking for a guy that maybe can put on a little bit of size when it comes to mass and be able to play from the inside, he's got a lot of potential to do that. And where he's going in the draft potentially provides the opportunity for a little bit of development. And when you look at what he did, when he got to SMU in 2023, he had 10 sacks his first year at SMU. Last year, he had 8 sacks. So this guy's originally from the University of Miami, but he transferred to SMU, and the production came right away. So he's made a lot of plays. Lately, he ran a 4.78. That's either not a slow defensive end, but definitely a more athletic interior defensive tackle. And so I think that there could be a transference here, or a translation from him from playing D-end to moving inside potentially. And that's where all the numbers would start making sense for what he could do as far as his size. Because right now he's just a really big defensive end, a top 95%, top 90 percentile defensive end as far as weight. Moving inside a D tackle, it's not there. But if you could get 10 pounds on him, then he's up there closer to some of the top defensive linemen as far as their weight. Guys that really he fits more closer to the bill with. Then his 4.78 makes a lot more sense on the inside. He's got pretty long arms, 33 and 5/8. That works on the inside. So I think he's potential. And you're talking about a good pass rusher. If you could rush him from the inside, I think he would be dominant against offensive guards, where he's got way more lateral quickness and way more technique skill that he could win. Longer arms, he can win with a straight arm. So I like him moving inside. The question mark is going to be the run defense. Is he going to be able to anchor if you do move him inside? That's the question mark. But you take him late in the potential draft, right? They talk to Aeneas Peebles. He's another one of those guys that's undersized. He's going to play about 290 pounds, but he's an elite pass rusher. When it comes to run stopping, they compete, they battle, but they're not as good at it. So there's a certain type of player. But if you're taking an Elijah Roberts and you're putting him with an Evan Anderson, and you're pulling Evan Anderson out after first and second down, and Roberts is coming in to rush the passer, well, then it kind of meets your expectations, and you've got an ability to get some things done there. So I think there's potential for him to potentially move inside. They could always be looking at him for a defensive end, but I think he's a intriguing prospect when you're talking about the power that he plays with. And I think you see it on display pretty consistently with his heavy hands and his good hand work. He's a pretty good run defender on the outside. I wonder how that will translate to him playing on the inside against defense or against offensive guards. But he's got a lot of versatility, and you actually seen it on film. We seen him go everywhere along that SMU defense. So he went anywhere from playing outside to playing at the 3 tech. So there is film to kind of base this off of. Could be a potential ability for the 49ers to grab a guy that has really good speed to power conversion that you can move inside. And one of the things that they had a lot of success with is DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead were both 5 techniques at Oregon when they were drafted. Now, at the time, the 49ers were playing a 3-4 in San Francisco when they were drafted. So it was an easy fit. But the 49ers were able to put Buckner at 3 tech, struggled a little bit against the run, but was an elite pass rusher, which was a huge benefit. Might be something you're looking at with a player like Elijah Roberts. I'm not saying he's Buckner, but you're getting the idea, the mold. And then with Armstead, a guy that was really able to hold up against the run pretty consistently, especially the more he put on size. And so I think this is an intriguing prospect that I like. And he's got a great motor. He's got a good first step. This is a Chris Kasarik type guy. I think he fits. I think the question mark is, what is he going to do when he moves inside against the run? I think that's going to be the biggest question mark. If he can figure it out, it's going to be good. He's also got to be better at tackling. So those are some things he's going to have to get better at. But moving him inside where there's less space, that will make him a better tackler on the inside as well. 49ers just have to feel that he can make some plays on the inside and be able to get guys to the ground. So he's an interesting prospect and somebody the 49ers could be interested in later rounds, in Elijah Roberts. Next up is going to be another defensive end. And Elijah Roberts is a guy I've been talking about the conversion on the way in. The next player I'm talking about is all about being on the outside and winning with speed. This guy is a pressure man from the outside, and that's Q Robinson from Alabama. Q was with Alabama for 4 years. He played special teams most of the time, even though he was highly ranked, never transferred out, played a lot of special teams, and wanted to be really good at special teams, which he is. Huge value for special teams later in the draft. But Q Robinson is 6'4", 243 pounds, a little bit undersized. So not the 250 threshold that most teams make you have for an edge rusher, but part of it's because Q wins with a really good first step and tremendous speed off the edge. He ran a 4.6 40, which is fantastic. He had 4 sacks last year. He did deal with an injury, which caused him to miss games, or that sack number could definitely have been a lot higher. And so he's a guy that you're talking about late in the draft that has a particular set of skills, right? I talked about this. You either have to have somebody you have an idea, a vision for him. Well, with Q Robinson, you have a vision of bringing speed off the edge. Kyman Rucker is more of a polished technician, a power and speed combination. Q Robinson is just a speed demon off the edge and a special teams ace. Like, that's what you're getting if you're getting him. Now, one of the interesting things about him is the fact that he's got a long wingspan. 80 5/8 wingspan was a top 93 percentile, and probably part of the reason he's able to keep separation around the edge. Now, when you're talking about the things he does well, he's really good in pass rush. That's something he does at a high level. Now, the thing is, he still grades out over an 80 when it comes to stopping the run. So even though he's undersized, he played the run really well for Alabama last year. And, he's a guy that had to wait his turn. Guys were ahead of him. Guys like Chris Broswell were ahead of him. And so he's just been waiting, and he's ready to go. He's got the ability. He's got the necessary length to be able to produce. And so I think this could be a fun player. If you get into late round 5, you consider going ahead and going there. And if for some reason he's around in middle round 6, you probably should think about trading up and getting him. A lot of potential. He's got the bend and flexibility to be able to get around the corner. This isn't a guy that can't bend and then flatten. He can get to the quarterback, and he can turn it on a dime. So you see the flexibility in his ankles. You see the flexibility in his hips. This is a guy that can be a elite pass rusher as long as he can get the run ability together, stopping the run. He shows the ability to get down the line of scrimmage and make plays. He's got fluid mobility, so he's able to be able to move laterally in space, doesn't get juked, can make plays, chase down quicker quarterbacks. He's got the ability to drop in coverage if you need. Not the best when it comes down to it, but he is a guy that could be flexible enough to spy a quarterback as well. The special teams is something that I kept noting, jumped off the page for me. Just a really, really fun player to watch, and he's just been a consistent guy. He needs to continue to get bigger, needs to continue to get stronger, but if he can do that, I think that Q Robinson could be one of those late round gems that people talk about, like, why did we miss out on him? Why did we not make sure that we got this edge rusher who has all that elite speed to be able to come off the edge? You talk about guys early in the draft, Mike Green, James Pierce Jr., guys predicated on speed. Well, here's a guy that's going to be late in the draft that is the same sort of player, just not to the elite level, but has those elite traits. So he hasn't had the production. He hasn't proved it yet, but he has something there. And when you get late in the draft, getting somebody that has those elite traits could be huge for the 49ers. So Q Robinson, a speed element edge rusher that I really potentially like late in this draft for the 49ers. And who knows? I mean, he goes somewhere else, he could be a real problem for the 49ers. So he's one to watch. Now I'm going to go to cornerback. And I don't know how I found this guy, and I'm sure others have talked about him before, but I just came across him watching another game, and he's just been somebody that I just keep going back to. I'll watch a cornerback, and I want to watch this guy. I'm going to go back because I want to compare them to each other, because there's just something about Roger Longerbeam that I like. Hey, he comes out of Rutgers. He's 5'11", 175 pounds, and that's the first thing that catches your eye, 175 pounds, right? The same thing with Kobe Bryant that's in this draft. Undersized cornerback. How are they going to play physically? Well, Robert Longerbeam, he plays physical at the point of attack. Like, this dude's not afraid to hit. Now, sometimes it doesn't always work out the way he wants, but he's not afraid to put his body in there and mix it up. And I think he could put on a little bit more weight. But he ran a 4.39 40, so he's got the necessary speed and the quickness to stay with guys. He had 2 interceptions last season. He had 11 passes deflected, so good job pass defense there. 43 tackles, 25 of them solo. So he shows the ability to tackle. So 5'11 is definitely tall enough. The 4.3 is definitely good enough. His 3-cone and change of direction is great. That shows his ability, his explosiveness, shows with his broad jump, very fantastic. And then his 10-yard split is a 1.50. So, I mean, this guy moves. And that's the first thing I noticed on film that got my attention was how quickly he drove on the football. So they might have space when they first come out of their stem and out of their break, but he drives on the football so good and gets his hand in there. And he shows the ability to get that off arm in there without making contact with the receiver so he doesn't get penalties. I don't know. I think he's a solid player and a guy that I'm a fan of. And I couldn't wait to talk about him because I think he's got some things that he's really exceptional at. Number one is footwork. His footwork is superb. He's able to plant that back foot when he's in his back pedal, plant it and drive on footballs. And it's clean. There's no missteps. There's no false steps. He gets downhill in a hurry and drives on those footballs, which are huge. He's got great fluid hips, so he's able to turn and run with guys. He's able to change direction on a dime. Those are the types of things you have to have. If you're herky and jerky with your hip fluidity, that's when guys get separation. That's when guys are able to get in and out of their breaks and beat you to a spot. That doesn't happen. He stays in phase and mirrors receivers at a high level. And that's one of the things when I saw it, I'm like, how is this guy not higher in this draft? He was looking really good playing with receivers and staying with them when they're coming out of their stem, which is huge because that's what you want corners to do, is stick on these guys. He has great awareness when in zone coverage, does fantastic with that. He's able to stay with receivers and read through receivers to the quarterback, keeps his eyes on the quarterback, but is able to maintain the proper leverage that he needs to have to be able to get to that receiver and displace the football, which he does at a high level. He's got a great closing burst. It's just been so good to see on film the things that he does. He's got good ball skills and good timing. He defended 42 passes during his career at Rutgers. Like, that is so impressive. So those are some huge strengths for Robert Rogerbeam. I think he does a really good job of making plays. The things that he needs to get better at, of course, he needs to get stronger. He needs to get a bigger body because he can get, bodied up a little bit by bigger, more physical receivers. But those are things you can work on. The other parts of his game are just there. And I think when you're looking for a coverage cornerback, this is him. And if he was afraid of contact, I'd be a little bit more concerned, but he's a willing physical player able to get down there. So it all really, his weaknesses all come down to physical strength. I can't disengage from a receiver when it comes to run blocking. I get moved around a little bit. I get pushed and off my spot, and it allows that separation for a wide receiver. So those are the things that he needs to get better at. But when you're talking about ball skills, the ability to cover in space, I mean, he is just so good at doing it. So these are some late round gems that I was able to talk about in this one. Andrew Armstrong, wide receiver from Arkansas. Kyman Rucker, defensive end, North Carolina. Elijah Roberts, hybrid D end, D tackle at SMU. Q Robinson, defensive end, Alabama. Robert Longerbeam, cornerback from Rutgers. And I actually have some more guys that I want to talk about on a future episode. I have 2 offensive linemen that I've been breaking down that I'm a huge fan of. And I'm gonna be working on one of those for Patreon here pretty soon. Another wide receiver and another corner who I think is actually one of the best coverage corners when it comes to zone coverage in the entire draft. Just no one's really talking about him, and he's a late round guy. So there are some draft gems the 49ers could potentially hit on late. Let me know if you have guys in the comment section. You have guys that I didn't talk about yet. Put them down there so that way I could get to them. Maybe they're on my list, maybe they're not. But I enjoy talking about these late round guys the 49ers could hit. And with 3 draft picks in round 7, there's a potential for them to strike on some of these guys. Last year, we really talked up Tatum Bethune, and Tatum Bethune was one of those guys he ended up getting. So it's fun to talk about and put these guys on people's radar. These are good football players, and they're going to help out a football team somewhere. So let me know in the comment section what you thought of these guys. Like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening to audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating. This episode was brought to you by Bet Online. The game starts here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.